Well, first up, let Joe and I introduce you to these two very clever gentlemen that we have sitting beside us at the moment. First of all, we say good morning to Errol Davis. Hello, and welcome to the show, and to Alan Wilson.
Morning, Maureen.
Welcome.
Joe.
Is this the very first Australian Model Makers Fair?
I think it might be, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gee, we're glad we invited you on.
That was the one in 1920.
There was one in 1920.
1920,
And you were
round
there?
about 20 years.
Maureen, that's not a very fair question, love.
Oh, ain't you? What impressed me at the time, Norman Lindsay had some models there, beautiful models, and that's what started me off.
Yeah. What sort of models did Norman Lindsay have there?
He had Thermopylae, clipper ships. That type of thing.
I thought you meant models, you know.
Oh,
Models.
no, these were ship models.
Oh, I see.
And they're still up at his home
Are
on
they?
display, quite a lot of them.
Fancy.
Some have disappeared, but there's
Some
quite a
still
few of them there.
Yes. Well, Errol, we might start with you because, first of all, can we have a look at these little planes that are on our table? And there's quite an interesting story about them, isn't there?
Oh, yes, I've been making models ever since I can remember. But during the war, when I was a teenager, model makers were asked to provide models of aircraft for spotting purposes. In those days, there was no radar, and we had to learn how to identify enemy aircraft coming. Of course, they were not coming at supersonic speeds. They were probably doing about 200 knots. And we had...
That's if you had a good wind, Errol.
You had a good wind, a good tailwind, yes. We had spotting groups, and in Sydney, ours was in the penthouse of the Astor Flats in Macquarie Street, which was one of the high points of Sydney in those days. And hanging from the ceiling of this penthouse were hundreds, perhaps thousands of aircraft. All the aircraft in the world, in fact, that had been made by model makers were hanging in the penthouse of the Astor Flats.
Really? Did you ever spot any enemy aircraft?
I never spotted an enemy aircraft.
Oh, but you had a lot of fun on the way up, didn't you, eh?
Did. We were called the Volunteer Air Observer Corps, and I'm wearing my little
Yeah, I
Your
noticed
little
that
badge,
there.
yes.
the Volunteer Air Observer Corps badge. This was started by the Sydney Daily Telegraph at the
Was it?
time.
Oh.
And I might say that one of the model makers was Lloyd Rees, one of Sydney's best-known artists.
Well, let's talk about another aspect of your model making, and that is, in fact, that you have made a whole model of the city of Sydney, which will be at the fair.
That will be at the fair.
Now, and we also have a model here of a hotel that you did. Now, how did you get into that side of it?
Well, that's the Bridge Hotel at Echuca, which was built about the middle of the 19th century. I made this model. I was making models of National Trust buildings at the time, and I made this model from drawings which I prepared of the building itself and photographs. It's quite a historic building, and it was then a staging post between Sydney and Melbourne on the Cobb and Co route, so you can see in front of the hotel the little Cobb and Co coach.
Oh, yes.
Can we just see what Errol's got in his hand?
Yes.
He's got these clenched fists.
What are they, Errol?
These are motor cars and
Yes.
little items that are used in professional model making. They're various scales. Well, that's one that's about 1 to 100, but here is one that is about 1 to 800. Just
Oh,
You're kidding.
heavens
Can we
above.
get to that?
Gosh,
No,
look at
whether
the
you
size of
can.
that.
I don't know whether... There it is, that little tiny...
Like, yes.
And there's
Oh,
a-
look, he's falling off.
Little
They
truck,
get
you see.
smaller and smaller. How long did it take you to make the model of the city of Sydney?
Well, there'd be about 6 months' work in the model.
Is that
like
all?
that,
I would have
perhaps.
thought longer than that.
Oh, in model making, but there's a lot of research that has to go into it first. That
Yes.
takes a long time, but about 6 months' work would probably go into building a model like that.
Well, that should be something to really look forward to at the affair alone, just to see that model.
Yes, it'll be quite spectacular at the fair.
Because not only do we have the planes at the fair, but also our next guest, who is Alan Wilson. He has these magnificent ships, which we'd like to talk about now, Alan.
Yes,
You have been known as the grand old man of maritime modelling, haven't you?
Well, it's a doubtful thing, but that's what they say.
Is that what they say?
Accept it. If they say it about you, Alan, accept it.
Any publicity is good publicity.
Now, we're having a look at one of your ships now.
Probably
How did
because
you...
they started early and haven't died yet.
Now, how did you get interested in it? Look, have a look at what we're looking at now on
Well,
camera.
one thing that got me, as I said, was this exhibition of where Norman Lindsay had these models.
Yes,
And I've always been fascinated with the billowing clouds and the romantic era.
yes.
And that's when I started making models. I did dabble in aeroplanes, but my main interest has always been in sailing ships.
Yes. Did you hear Joe and I talking at the top of the show about the sailing ships that used to be in bottles?
Yes.
Did you
yes.
ever make any of those?
No,
No.
I'm not interested in that. It's just it's an art of all its own. Some people make quite a few of them, but it doesn't appeal to me.
Yes,
I like the large square rig style things.
yes.
And
Alan, how did you get interested in ships, actually? I mean, is it because of your history with the sea, or...?
I haven't got a history with the sea, except in the later years when I was racing in a yacht for a while. But just fascinated me, these beautiful vessels.
Right.
I remember as a boy I had a big photograph over the bed of the China tea clippers racing.
Oh, did you?
And that it just gravitated to it, and I made models of them. And I brought a few along to show what sort of thing it'll be at the exhibition.
Yes. You must have explicit patience, both of you, to sit there and to do something, particularly this square
I wish
rig
you'd
thing.
talk to my wife. She doesn't agree with that.
Really?
But I have for this sort of thing. That's about the only thing.
Yeah, really? Yes.
Yes, I think that's one of the advantages of a hobby. You set your own pace and you do it, and you do have the patience. But if you want to stop, you stop.
Yes. I believe also at the model fair there's going to be science fiction modules as well
Yes,
as
yes. There's some
many,
people
many
interested
other
in that.
sorts of models.
Oh, great variety, aircraft, tanks.
Everything. Now, you have one other magnificent ship to show us, which actually it sails furl and unfurl. Now, you do this, of course, with...
Yes, now the difference between these models here is there's a lot of detail on the rigging there, but the big fella over there is built to work, and as you can see, the rudder moves when I work the controls.
Of course, we must say this is all radio controlled.
This is radio controlled, yes. And when you're tacking, well, you just turn the mast sail upside.
Isn't that amazing?
Heaven's sake.
Yeah.
And if the wind, I'll turn that back a bit.
Oh, it's even creaking, Joe. Listen to that.
If it becomes too windy, well, you just furl the sails.
Look at that. Isn't
Heaven's
that
sake.
brilliant?
Now, how long did it take you to build that one, Alan?
That one, on and off, about 12 months. If I sat down to make it, it'd probably take 6 months.
6 months.
Does it actually sail, Al?
Oh, it sails beautifully, this one.
Where do you sail it?
Kipax Lake when there's no football on.
Oh, yes.
Or with our club at Narrabeen.
Oh, you have a club.
And every second Sunday, we put on quite a good display for the public. We're getting quite a crowd there.
Well, we
Various
thank...
models.
Good. Well, we thank you both very much for coming on the show. And Sydney, this would be a wonderful family experience for you to go to the Australian Model Makers Fair. It starts on the 9th of August, goes through to the 13th of August, and it's all happening at the Showground at a particular pavilion, isn't it? The Royal Hall of Industries, that's right. And not only what we have shown you, but many, many others.
And the kids will love it.
Oh, they
Won't
will.
They go bananas.
And why don't you say hello to Errol Davis and Alan Wilson and tell them that you saw them on the Good Morning Sydney show. Good luck and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mum.
Now we are going to a break and we're just going to come back.